Hey guys, enter the stars and welcome. This is kind of an impromptu live chat. This, of course, will be aired later after this is complete. I just wanted to get on board with you guys. Let's see. Let's go ahead and go into the main screen here. We're going to share screens. Let me mute this. I'll wait for a couple people to get on board. We'll do a sound check, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Now, I think we're probably only going to be on for maybe an hour to an hour and a half, because I know you guys have things you have going on during the day. But what I wanted to do was kind of conclude the book of Jasher and talk about what's going on with that book. It's pretty amazing, all of the synchronicities we found within that book. We're also going to look at Moses' wand that was given to him by God and how that all played out with the Exodus out of Egypt by the Israelites. Now, here's the amazing thing, you guys. There is more to the story in the book of Jasher that gives us clues about the things that were left out of the Bible, which I believe is fascinating. Can you guys hear me? Let's do a quick sound check. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see you guys all here. Make sure you guys can hear me, and we'll go ahead and get started. We're also going to cover the center Earth earthquake that shook the world. This is crazy stuff, but it's something that we need to cover on here. Great. Thanks, you guys. Awesome. All right. First of all, we're going to finish up the book of Jasher. And this chronicles, actually, let's see. I think we're going to 359 is what we want. Here we are. Now, this chronicles the story of Aaron and Moses' first time standing in front of the Pharaoh. And remember, Moses had just acquired the magic wand with the name of God written upon it. He was able to pull it from the garden where no one else had been able to pull that wand from the garden. They call it a staff. We'll call it a staff just for reference's sake. And when I heard the story of what actually happened, this is where I was just very intrigued. So they're standing before the Pharaoh, and the king said to them, "But who will believe you that you are the messengers of God and that you have come to me by his order?" Now, Moses had just told the Pharaoh that he needed to release God's people, the Israelites, from bondage, because he was an unfair leader and an unfair king. And the Israelites had suffered for many, many years. So Pharaoh asked for a sign and a wonder in the matter so that they could be believed. And Aaron hastened and threw the rod out of his hand before Pharaoh and before his servants, and the rod turned into a serpent. The sorcerers then saw this, and they cast each man his rod upon the ground, and they became serpents. And the serpent of Aaron's rod lifted up its head and opened its mouth to swallow the rod of the magicians. Now this is where my mind was blown, because Balaam the magician answered, this is on the Pharaoh's side, and said, "This thing has been from the days of old, that a serpent should swallow its fellow, and that living things devour each other. This was part of the curse. You shall bruise him in the head, and he shall bruise you in the heel. The serpent will eat dust all the days of its life. This is the serpent eating its tail. This is the Ouroboros. This is the sine wave. The serpent eating its tail over and over, locked in this dimension, in this reality." So they call that out here in the book of Jasher. Then he says here, "Now therefore restore it to a rod, and it was at first. And we will also restore our rods as they were at first." So they're playing this little game here. They're like, okay, pull your snake back in, turn it back into a rod, and let's try this again. "And if thy rod shall swallow our rods, then shall we know that the Spirit of God is in thee. And if not, thou art only an artificer, like unto ourselves." So the Pharaoh's magicians admit that they're an artificer. They admit it, that it's artificial, artificial. But it says here, "And Aaron hastened and stretched forth his hand and caught hold of the serpent's tail. and it became a rod in his hand, and the sorcerers did the like with their rods. And they got hold in each man of the tail of his serpent, and they became rods as at first. And when they were restored to rods, the rod of Aaron swallowed up their rods. The king saw this. He ordered the book of records to try to find who this God was. Now, they name him Jehovah here, and that's, of course, a pronunciation. I believe this is the 4 letters of God, which some people translate as Jehovah. Okay. Pharaoh said to Moses, "Behold, I have not found the name of your God written in this book." So he did not find God wherever he was looking. Was not the Bible, most likely. And they answered the king, and they said that the Hebrews is a son of the wise, the son of the ancient kings. Now let's fast forward down here because I highlighted some areas that I wanted to focus on. The Pharaoh said to them, "Tell me now his power and his might." And they said to him, "He created the heaven and earth, the seas, all their fishes. He formed the light, created the darkness, caused rain upon the earth, and watered it, and made the herbage and grass to sprout. He created man and beast and the animals of the forest, the birds of the air and the fish of the sea, and by his mouth they live and die." We were just talking about this, that the reason why we're able to breathe is simply because God allows it to happen. And that those who do not believe in God will one day have their breath taken from them. "Surely he created thee in thy mother's womb, and put into thee the breath of life, and reared thee and placed thee upon the royal throne of Egypt." So Moses is even telling him that you gained your kingship from God, and he will take thy breath and thy soul from thee, and return him to the ground from whence he was taken. Of course, this really made the Pharaoh angry. And he said, "But who amongst all the gods of nations can do this? My river is mine, and I have made it for myself." So here we have another clue that Pharaoh possibly created the Nile River. How he did it? Very good question. But we do know that the position of that river coincides with many ley lines and ley points. So with the fallen angel technology, Nephilim technology, he was able to create a river according to the book of Jasher. Let's fast forward to the next highlighted section and see what else we have for you guys. I highlighted as much as I could here. This is a very long book, so I didn't want to get too in depth. Let's check the chat. Make sure you guys are good. Very good. Awesome. Make sure we're still live. Good. Okay, great, you guys. Cool. All right. And it says here, "And when the Egyptians hid themselves on the count of the swarm of animals, they locked their doors after them." Now, this is when the plagues had begun. There were 10 plagues, and we get an additional plague mentioned here, which is amazing, that God ordered the Salanuth, which was in the sea, to come up and go into Egypt. So we have a sea monster coming up out of the sea that had long arms, 10 cubits in length, of the cubit of a man. "And she went upon the roofs and uncovered the raftering and flooring and cut them, and stretched forth her arm into the house and removed the lock and bolt and opened the houses of Egypt." So we have this sea creature called Salanuth. Remember, you guys, the last days will be like the days of Noah. And also, there is nothing new under the sun. So this exodus out of Egypt will occur again. There will be plagues spoken about in the book of Revelation, and those people that are in God's camp will be protected because of our faith and because of the choices that we've made to come out of the beast and have faith. Okay. So I thought that that was an interesting little side note going on here. Let's continue on. Here's another additional side note not mentioned in the Bible: the plague of darkness, 3 days. But what they say here is that any person who was standing when the darkness came remained standing in his place. It was like people were frozen in time. And he that was sitting remained sitting, and that he was lying continued lying in the same state. And he that was walking remained sitting upon the ground in the same spot. And this thing happened to all the Egyptians until the darkness had passed away. So again, additional side notes from the book of Jasher that really help to illustrate the true story of what happened in Egypt. Now, I think, okay, here's another part here. This is after they had gone out, just before the seas were parted. The Lord strengthened the hearts of all the Egyptians to pursue the Israelites, for the Lord desired to overthrow the Egyptians in the Red Sea. So this was all part of God's plan. Okay. He had to destroy the Egyptian people who pursued, and it was every man, it mentions early in here, every man of age, except for women and children, pursued the Israelites. So in effect, this was the first real genocide that God waged on peoples that were trying to destroy his seed. Again, this is the enmity between the seeds, the Israelites versus the Egyptians. God strengthened the hearts of the Egyptians to pursue the Israelites. So God basically made them do it because he knew that they had not fully repented and that they would forever plague the Israelites if he did not destroy them. But here's an interesting side note. The third division was of the children of Judah, as Moses addresses each of the four divisions that were standing in front of the Red Sea. And each of them had a complaint. Some wanted to return back to the way things were in Egypt. Others were afraid. But Judah, from which the Lion of the tribe of Judah would come, which is Jesus Christ, they were brave and they resolved to go meet the Egyptians to fight with them. But Moses did tell them, stand in your place, for the Lord will fight for you, and you shall remain silent. Others were afraid. Others wanted to go right in the middle of the division. But again, Moses told them to relax. And of course, Moses uses the magic wand, the rod, the staff. He lifts it up, and the waters were divided into 12 parts. Now, this part interested me because the main Bible version only shows us that it was divided like once. It doesn't really say it was divided once. It just says he parted the sea. But here we get 12 parts, and that would become the 12 tribes of Israel that would roam the wilderness for 40 years. Then it would become the 12 disciples of Christ, and he would go into the wilderness for 40 days. You see how the Bible all connects together. One long thread, even though it was written by dozens of men. That shows its authenticity. And books like Jasher fill in the blanks and strengthen our faith even more. So this goes on. We're almost done with this segment. The Lord ordered an angel to take Pharaoh from amongst the Egyptians, even though all of his soldiers were killed. And they cast him in the land of Nineveh, and he reigned over it for a long time. So the Pharaoh escaped death. How? Because he repented at the very last minute. It says that he left, no man was left except Pharaoh, who gave thanks to the Lord and believed in him. Therefore, the Lord did not cause him to perish at the time of the Egyptians. Now, I wanted to look at this because these books are only as good as they are accurate, right? And so I looked up this passage, and in fact, it never says that Pharaoh died. It says the Egyptians all died, but that Pharaoh, it says the host of Pharaoh remained there, and not one of them was left, but it never says that Pharaoh actually was killed. So no contradiction there. And in fact, Nineveh was a city that had been founded before this event in Bible history. And if you look, it says here that the Egyptian god Ishtar was worshipped in Nineveh, and that may have come from Pharaoh. Mentions Ishtar many times in here. Let's check in the chat. Make sure you guys are good. Cool. We got a good little crowd here. All right. Yeah, for those of you that just tuned in, you'll be able to catch the rest of this as soon as this is complete. You can come back in and take a look at the first part that you missed, okay? Make sure you guys are all good. Okay, cool. Glad you guys can hear me, and we're good to go. Now, where are we at next? Let's go ahead and get into the center Earth earthquake that shook the world. Now we're going to pop over here into Google Earth. We're going to do a little recap on what we found. Let's undo these here and redo these last ones here. Okay, so what you're looking at here on your screen, we're actually in Russia right now. We're going to switch over, and I'm going to show you guys some pretty fascinating stuff. We discovered this giant circle over the entire Earth that connects all of the megalithic sites in the world. Well, not all of them, but 17 very ancient sites. Okay, this is what the circle looks like. I like to use Google Earth as a palette because you can overlay things and draw lines between things. I'm sure there's other programs that do that, but we use it for that. Now, what we found, this is kind of a recap, is that the Nazca lines connect through center Earth, which is Mount Logan. I think I kept calling it Lucas, and my apologies, you guys, I misspoke. It's actually Mount Logan. And we're going to look at the exact coordinates of where this is. And we're going to discover that there was actually an earthquake at the, I believe it's called the Yucatan Bay in Alaska, an earthquake in 1899, 102 years before 9/11. I'll say that again. There was an earthquake at this center Earth. It's called like the Yucatan Bay in Alaska. And I'm going to show you the exact coordinate. It was on September 10th, 1899. 102 years and 1 day before 9/11. And as you guys have heard, 9/11 was 102 minutes of terror. Now, I believe that God is an amazing God, and he uses a lot of structure. And sometimes when these things happen, they are judgments. Sometimes they're warnings. Whether or not anyone picks up on them is up to whether or not, who picks up on them and who does not. But I believe in this instance, we identified a definite synchronicity, like a forewarning. It was an 8.1 earthquake. We're going to get into the details of that earthquake in a minute. But I wanted to recap this first for you guys. Let's zoom out of here. Now, that yellow line that you're looking at here is this line, this red line. This is South America. This is South America. These are the Nazca Plains. These are the Nazca Plains. And 180 degrees away, the complete opposite side of the planet, we get the here temple complex. And as we showed you guys in the previous videos about this, this is unbelievable, quite simply. Look at the front of this complex. I'm going to spin this around and I'm going to zoom this in so you guys can see how strange this is. Okay. Now remember, halfway around the world, but these 2 points are connected on the map by what we just told you. 180 degrees. It's on the complete other side of the planet. They call this an antipode, which is basically the opposite point on the planet. Okay. And when you look at this, you actually see an arrow. They call this what do they call it? An embankment, or I forget the word. Embankment. This is a huge embankment. Now you're going to see this clearly as I kind of zoom this in, and then I'm going to tilt this, okay? And you're going to see this embankment and the majestic images of this. I mean, this quite literally looks like a giant arrow. Now it's pointing the other direction, but look at this. I mean, it comes off of there. This points directly to Nazca. Now, this is the temple complex. We're zooming in now. I just wanted you to see that arrow first, okay? And the road and the alignment of this temple complex, as you can see here, shifting around because of the angle, but it is a direct alignment. And all I did was extend this temple complex. Look at this. I mean, you guys have seen the pictures. Let's do a quick recap on this, because this is unbelievable. Okay, what you're looking at there is this. Let's see here. Over here. We're going to type this in to here. We're going to look at pictures. Temple. Okay, so here is the complex. This place is otherworldly, to put it lightly. Look at this. Here's a shot off the end of the embankment here. You can see how it drops down into like oblivion. Okay, you guys, you did not build this. Sorry. Look at this. Here's the edge of this arrow. Look at the majestic scenery of this. The thing looks like it's about to fall off the edge of a cliff. Here's another shot here. Elevated. Some embankment here. Here's another great shot. This is the point of the arrow. This is a really good picture here. View image. So this is it. This is the arrow. So I wanted to show you that. Now, you're probably wondering what this is. Hold on. This big red line. This is the alignment. Now, yes, it looks like a cross, but they want to be like the Most High. So they may copy certain symbols. We know that the Catholic Church does so, and they're not serving God with some of the things that they're doing. So, you know, they're going to try to use Christ as power over the people. Religions, world religions. Let's see here. Goes through China, Russia. Let's get this over here. And this, again, that temple points to Nazca. Okay. I was trying to draw some similarities because there's a lot of animals at Nazca that can only be seen from the sky. Okay. A person on the ground could not create these giant, these giant animal, well, I don't even know what to call them, structures. Okay. They just can't, because you would need to be in an airplane to see what you're drawing. Okay. I mean, I guess there's methods to it, but that is the proof right there, you guys, that these things were built by people that had intercontinental travel, as well as had the ability to fly. Okay. So we had two factors there. Now, this is the red line. And look at this. Let's pull this up. This is Washington, D.C., of course. The diamond of Washington, D.C. It's at about 0 degrees. Of course, they probably wanted to line that up to the North Pole. So, yes, we're at like 0 degrees. Look at your monitor here. And this line is headed toward the North Pole at about the same angle. Okay. So we have an alignment near Washington, D.C., with the diamond of Washington, D.C. lined up to the North Pole as well. That's a North Pole alignment, so it's not really anything special other than it's aligned to go through the North Pole, which is here. Now, one thing I wanted to, you guys, here's the North Pole. It's almost a perfect alignment through there from the temple to Nazca. Now, I wanted to, let's flip this around. I wanted you guys also to notice something else. You notice that the line of coldness of high mountains here, of course, in Alaska, here's Rockies. The Rockies almost follow this line exactly. It curves off here, and then we get the Mexico mountains. Look at this. It goes through the Yucatan. And here, and of course, these are very high mountains here along Peru, okay, the Peruvian mountains. Those mountains drop right off into the ocean, very deep here. This is 9,000 feet deep. As you can see down here, if you look down here, you can see how deep this ocean is within miles, within dozens of miles of the coastline. Okay. Why is that? This means something, you guys. Now let's see where the center Earth is. We just talked about center Earth. We're going to look at these mountains here. Now, let me zoom out real quick. So I want to show you also that the other line, this is the temple alignment line, goes right near Greenland, and there's a cold area here. Okay. Now, let's zoom in on this. I have to stop for a drink break, and then maybe continue. Let's turn this around so you guys get your orientation. We're on the coast of Alaska, okay? And the yellow push pin you're looking at is center Earth. And I'm going to show you about a crazy earthquake that happened. And there was actually reports. The only way they knew it happened is because there were some prospectors down there gold mining, and they interviewed a bunch of prospectors, and we're going to read that story and what they found. This is the coordinate of center Earth, and the reason why I know this coordinate is because the people that discovered that these 2 points were opposite one another, and that there was a great circle that contained the 17 ancient sites, they coordinated this point, so they did the work for us. Okay, now this is called Russell Fjord. Okay, and this is Yakutat Bay. Wasn't it interesting that Yakutat Bay and the center Earth, that this line passes through the Yucatan Peninsula? Yakutat Bay, Yucatan Peninsula. These are the kinds of things that we need to look at, you guys. Okay. Now, as I did in previous videos, let's see here. Let's pull this off of here. Kind of hard to do 3 things at once, you guys, but I will get back in the chat in a minute here. I'm very sorry that I'm kind of focused on this, but if I get off track, I will forget stuff. Okay. What we're looking for is Mount, there it is. There's Mount Logan. Okay. And then, which is about 70 miles away. Okay. Very close to center Earth. And then, okay, it's like 70 miles. Then we're going to look at Mount Denali, which was just renamed Mount Denali from Mount McKinley. And that's right here. Here's Mount, and there, it's funny because there's, whoop, that's not it. Hold on. Here it is. Here's Mount McKinley, renamed Mount Denali, and they still have it incorrect in Google Earth. And this mountain is near the line. It's within 44 miles of the line. Isn't that interesting? 44th president renames the mountain. And we come over here, and it is about 450 miles from center Earth, very close to Mount Logan. So I wanted to cover that, you guys. Let's take a look at this story about the prospectors. Okay. This blew me away. So I'm researching this center Earth, and I'm like, okay, where is this place? Let's see here. We're going to look at that in a minute too. Pretty amazing stuff. Where is that at? No. Here it is. All right. So this is the earthquake, you guys. September 10th, 102 years and 1 day before 9/11, and there were 102 minutes of terror on 9/11. This was an 8.1 earthquake. Okay. A shaky September in Yakutat Bay. Here's some pretty fascinating pictures here of some of the damage. Okay. Here's the bay. They had a prospector's report on this. We're going to read very quickly some of what they had discovered. But there is some numerology in here. Do you think it's interesting that this released on 3/23, 1 day off of 3/22, and the earthquake happened 1 day off of 9/11? So 8 prospectors were panning the glacier sands near Hubbard Glacier when the earth started shaking and never seemed to stop. A few days later, they had survived the natural phenomena that probably should have left them dead. Geologists Ralph and Lawrence were in the area a few years later to study the marvelous glaciers, saw things like mussels resembling clumps of blue flowers on rocks 20 feet above the ocean. They saw so much evidence of a giant earthquake, they interviewed a few prospectors in Yakutat and included their stories in a 1912 government paper. The earthquakes at Yakutat Bay, Alaska, in September 1899. A Flenner was working as a carpenter over 6 years after the series of large earthquakes, the biggest being a magnitude 8 that happened on September 10th, 1899. They were panning for gold. There was a pre-shock on September 3rd. They rigged up a seismograph, a homemade seismograph, and then all of a sudden, there was the big one. Caused lots of damage. Severe shock. There was a foreshock of 7.4 that day, and a following 8.1. Lifted areas of shoreline 47 feet out of the water. Now, of course, Building 7 was 47 stories tall. And the death of lots of individuals, they call it here, but what they were talking about were crabs and fish and barnacles and mussels that were upheaved up above the water level and, of course, died. Cutting some of the queerest capers imaginable. There was a heavy shock waving up and down like swells of the sea, only with considerably more energy. On glacial sands that often liquefy during a large earthquake, the prospectors were lucky to survive the episode, as natural forces consumed their camp and all their supplies. Their camp was sucked into the ground. They ran for their tents, leaving everything behind, and were never able to rescue anything from it after. Above us, about 100 yards, was a lake. The lake broke from its bed and dashed down upon our camp while we ran along the shore, escaping its fury. This sounds like something out of a movie. The deluge was almost immediately followed by one from the sea, so they had a tsunami, a 20-foot high tsunami. The flood from the lake carried all the debris back over the undulating Mariana Hills. They protected themselves from being carried away by tearing up the clothes and tying themselves to a small alder tree growing on the mountainsides. The remarkable part of the story is that no one died despite the unlucky location of the miners. This is pretty fascinating, you guys. So I wanted to share that with you. So that's the story on Center Earth. A little bit more detail on that. Now, what you're looking at here, we're going to change gears a minute here, but wait, first let's check into the live chat, make sure you guys are good to go. All right, we got some more people joining us. All right, awesome, you guys. Let's make sure we're live, we're good, sound is good, we're still rolling, good. All right, this is nuts. Let's see, let's get that back here. Okay, there's been a little bit of confusion. Okay, time-lapse photography, stop-motion photography. Look, I understand there's a difference. Had a guy come on, he says he's a photographer, and the sky does not look like this at the equator. Okay, here's a panoramic. These are the stars at the equator. This is the east and west. This is the south, and back here is the north. But this is pretty cool how they did this. Here is the horizon. Okay, if you could sit up all night and watch the stars, and then compact all that into one scene, this is what you're going to see. Okay. Well, the reason why people are in denial about this is because they didn't learn this in school, and some people still have school education bias. So if it's nothing that's in a textbook or taught by the news or a teacher or professor, they just dismiss it out of hand. They cannot believe that a simple person like myself or like you or others could discover something that hasn't already been discovered. It's just beyond them. And for those, just like we saw God made Pharaoh suffer a delusion so that they would come, so that his army could be destroyed, God will do the same thing. For those who just didn't want to deny the truth, there's consequences for that. Okay. Now what you're seeing here is a meteor. This is cool. It says bright meteor here. And they caught that meteor falling down through the sky with this time-lapse photography, which I thought was pretty fascinating. Like I said, I understand there's a difference between time-lapse photography and stop motion, stop frame. I get all that. But this is what you're going to see. Okay. Here's the amazing thing. We're going to redo this. Every one of these stars moves the exact same distance. It's probably easier to, we're going to scroll up here. It'll be easier to see that up at these stars. Okay. Already able to pause this each one of the lengths of these stars moves the exact same distance, which is impossible if they're trillions of miles apart and trillions of miles closer and further away. You'd be driving down the road and there's a cricket and you pass it in your car. It's going to pass you much faster and go a much further distance in your line of view than the distant mountains. This is third grade comprehension, okay? But as I said, some people want to deny this. They don't want to believe that all these stars are in a giant canopy all at one level, embedded into a firmament. They don't want to believe that the sun is on the same track. They don't want to believe this. It's too hard for them to conceive of, okay? Because they want to believe in this world. Well, God will let you believe in this world if you want. Jesus tells us what to do. Keep your eyes fixed on heaven. That's what I'm going to do. I don't know about everyone else. But what you're going to see, if you could measure each one of these lines, is they each travel the exact same distance. Each of these lines represents a star in heaven. They each travel the exact same distance. If you were to go to this site, I'll put a link in the description. Let's make sure we're still on here. Sometimes they like to kick me off when I'm on a roll. Back to this. If you can measure, if you could stop this, come to this website and measure each of these lines. If you could find the front and end point of any one of the lines, find another one, another part of the thing, measure it. They're all the same. Now, here's the interesting thing. I looked at a stop frame photography for 6 hours. And again, the lines all matched in distance. And the lines covered exactly 1/4 of the sky. I'll say that again. I looked at another one of these, and it was a 6-hour stop frame or stop motion photography. All of the lines were the same distance, and they all went exactly 1/4 of the way through the sky. Now, what does that tell you? I know what it tells me. It tells me there's 24 hours in a day, and 1/4 of 24 hours is 6 hours. So the sun would travel 1/4 of the way through the sky in 6 hours. There's 24 hours in a day. So the stars are on the same, what do you call it, track, same level of the stars. Book of Enoch tells us this is the case. So pretty cool stuff. I'm getting dizzy. I don't know about you guys. Pop off of there. Wanted to, let's check in the chat real quick, and then I'm going to decode Popeye. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Okay, very good, you guys. Pretty cool stuff. Please, it's in the shape of an eye. Yes, I believe that the Earth is a convex lens. Okay, just like the inside of the eye. We're atop the convex lens. Now, this is interesting because there's some ancient belief systems that we live like on the back of a turtle. Okay, which is like a convex lens. Let me see if I can find that. Okay, Priyavihir, actually, the temple we just looked at in Cambodia, talks about Kurma, the turtle that supported the Mount Mandara. Okay, there's some inscriptions at Priyavihir, ancient inscriptions showing something about milk and a giant like serpent, and they're pulling it back and forth, and they're like churning the milky sea. Okay. And I was like, wow, that's pretty fascinating. But do your own research on that. Not sure about that. Wanted to decode Popeye really quickly. And I'll get more in depth into this. You guys, we just talked about the enmity between the seeds. Okay. What do you think this represents? Popeye with one eye, right? Popeye had one eye that was closed all the time, right? Well, didn't Jesus say if one eye causes you to sin, gouge it out? Didn't he say if your eye be single or clear, that your whole body will be full of light? Didn't he say if your eye was dark, that your whole body would be full of darkness? When he was on the cross, He was looking at both thieves, which I believe represented our eyes, and he said, "Only to one thief you will be with me in paradise." He was crucified at Golgotha, which means the skull of your head. And then there he was in the middle. Okay. So Popeye and Brutus. Brutus is like the Nephilim guy. He's like the Philistine, right? Giants in those days and after. Picking on the little Popeye. Popeye eats his spinach, right? Because spinach is the herbs of the field that we were all given to eat originally in the Garden of Eden, right? The herbs of the field, right? But they goof on us because Popeye eats it out of a can. Why couldn't he grab a bowl of lettuce, some whole food? But he had to eat it out of a can, which basically erases 90% of the nutrients in the spinach. You're basically eating air at that point. So there's lots of synchronicities here with Popeye, okay? All right. Wanted to do that really fast. Let's pop back in the chat here, you guys, see what's going on. Let's see if we covered everything. Covered the earthquake. We covered, let's take a look here. All right, covered that earthquake, good. All right, see what else we got here. How long have we been on here? It is 2 o'clock, about 2 o'clock. And we've been on here for about an hour. We're going to finish this up in about 10 minutes, you guys. We're going to make this short. You guys have any questions for me? Love to answer them. Thanks, you guys, for watching the videos. If you haven't already, check out Book of Jasher, parts 1, 2, and 3. This will serve as part 4, okay? I can actually probably change this title right here. I'll change that later. I'll put Book of Jasher, part 4 in there. And probably the final one. I think I only have like 20 pages left. Unless there's a bombshell at the back and at the end of Jasher, I think we'll probably be done with it. But that was pretty fascinating, guys. Superhero suits, magic wands, crazy. All right. Let's see here. With the university, that's why there's a bury this with the nuke. Step off the globe. You guys have any questions for me? Let's see. Oh, let's cover this real quick. Someone recommended that I go to New Earth and subscribe to this channel and watch this video, and this is fascinating. Okay, so this talks about all of the hidden megaliths around the planet that they have tried to cover up, okay? And there are many that they have tried to cover up. Hold on, I need some water. Now, why would they want to cover up these megaliths? Because, you guys, if we knew all the sites, it might actually fill in some of the circle. It might actually align to other things, and we could actually put a positive picture together. Now, why else would they want to destroy these megaliths? Okay, this is actually one from Russia, and in this documentary, she explains how this is the pyramid, and that they blasted this and quarried it. And then they poured concrete in the entrance of these pyramids. I guess there's 3 of these lined up together. Okay. She's got some amazing and rare photographs. The accent is a little tough to follow. She's got an Asian accent, but if you get used to it after the first 5 or 6 minutes, you'll get used to it. And you guys, there's bound to be clues in here. So I'm going to kind of go over this with a fine-tooth comb and just sit and listen to all the different hidden megaliths around the planet. Now, I do want to bring a couple to your attention that jumped out at me. These are the Senegambian stone circles, okay? Now, many of these are either heavily guarded or they're remote or no one's studying them at the minute. So this is like the frontier, you guys. This is the frontier of truth right here. If one of us could sit and spend a little bit of time trying to connect dots with this stuff, then we might find out some pretty fascinating stuff. We know one thing: the ancient history archaeologists are not doing their job. Either that or they're paid off to not do their job. Okay, we demonstrated that. We find new discoveries on this channel all the time with a computer. We're not even in the field with tools. Okay. Here's another site. This one's in Ethiopia. It's called the Enigmatic Stele at Tia. Again, they don't know who made these. There's very little study done on this. Okay. It's in Ethiopia, and they've got these swords. Now, this little symbol here looks familiar to me, but I can't get it. Okay. Calling it a false banana tree carving of the typical, calling it a false banana tree. I don't know what that means. Or this looks like a Hebrew character or something. This looks like some kind of character from an ancient peoples. Okay. And these stones have these sword. They look like swords on here. All right. Pretty cool. So, those are a couple that jumped out at me. What is this? Here are the stones here. Some different pictures. Okay. This looks like the chromosomes. Okay. Now, how do these people know this stuff? How would they know about chromosomes? Okay. But clearly, that's what it looks like. That looks like a chromosome to me. Let's zoom this in. This is probably a really good picture right here. You guys, this is a chromosome. Okay. X and Y. All right. Let's do a comparison here real quick, because that's what we do here, right? Let's look at a chromosome. You guys, we don't have to be rocket scientists. Oh, yeah, I did mean chromosome. Whoops. To figure out the things of God. All right. You just have to have the hunger and the thirst. Okay. I'm not like an extremely smart guy. I'm just a guy. Okay. All I know is what we're taught in church did not have the power to change my life. But this had the power to change my life. Every day I hunger for truth. I hunger to know the things of heaven. And I know that we're not being given it. Look at the comparison of this, you guys. That is nuts. Okay. Tens of thousands. Well, I'm not going to say tens of thousands, but at least 4,000 or 5,000 years old. Okay. And they've got this stuff. Now, this almost looks like the night sky at the equator, right? Where's the horizon? Okay. And here's the star spin, right? Okay, that just hit me. Let's pull that up, because that just blew me away. Here it is. Let's zoom this down. Here it is. This is what we're looking at, you guys. See, this is how the Holy Spirit works. Oh, wow. I'm kind of blown away right now. Okay, so this is the symbol on that stone. And the stone is in Ethiopia, which is on the equator. So this is what they saw in the night sky. You guys, this is how the Holy Spirit works, okay? It just reveals stuff on the fly because it's supposed to be a testament. It's a miracle so that people can wake up. But sadly, many people just will not. They won't, okay? But what can we do about that? Nothing. But we know what this is now. This is the night sky at the equator. And this site is at the equator, Ethiopia. Where is Tia? Let's find it on the map here. Let's get an exact location. Tia, Ethiopia. Ethiopia. And, oh, come on. Sometimes this thing freezes and I kind of have to like redo everything. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. I think we can close it and open it back up, but it should give us what we're looking for. Let me take a break and get some water real quick. You guys, that's pretty amazing that we just discovered that. This might be right on the equator. Then we'd have a slam dunk, right? Because this is still kind of open interpretation. But for those with eyes to see, you know what you're looking at, okay? There's the horizon. There's the star spin. It's like the fleur de lis. It's the same concept. Where is my... Hello? I need my Google Earth. Here it is. Tia, Ethiopia. And if this is right on the equator, I'm going to have an aneurysm right now because that's going to blow me away. All right. Sorry this is taking so long, you guys. This happens sometimes. Oh, see? They don't want us to find this live, do they? Let's try that again. Let's try her again. Oh, here we are. That hasn't happened in like a year. Let's check the chat real quick while that's opening so we don't rush that. All right, you guys. Oh, we got a little bit bigger crowd here. Right on. That's the New Orleans Saints, which is I think that's the Florida Lis. Thank you. Let's see here. Sword in the bottom, a symbol, the swords of the cherubim. Yes, yes. The spinning swords of the cherubim. Thanks, Lance. You are right. Gosh, man, you guys are smart. Okay. See, this is what they don't want to have happen. All of us learning together because we're the body of Christ and we can figure out anything with the help of the Holy Spirit, right? Let's look at Tia Ethiopia. Let's try this again. Ethiopia. Yes. So for those of you that are not quite sure, wow, this is like really close to the equator. Okay, so the spinning swords of the cherubim are the star spin in the night sky. Okay, so that's what we're talking about when we say that. And that's what that's what we derived from all of the research we've done that is actually blocking the way to the tree of life, which is behind the spinning stars, right? We pray to heaven, which is we look up, right? That's heaven. So behind the spinning stars is heaven. It's pure light, pure bliss, pure joy, the kingdom of heaven. But we're blocked from the tree of life because of the cherubim guarding the way to the tree of life because we are in sin. Christ is the Savior. Okay. Now this is Tia. Let's turn the grid on. View grid. Okay. Okay. So this is at like 8 degrees. So it's not exactly on the equator. You guys do fair balance here. We don't try to make things fit that don't. But the equator is here. Okay. We are, but it's close. It is about 550 miles from the equator. All right. Remember, down here in Nairobi, this is where Hell's Gate National Park is, where we believe Obama was born. Let's clear this. In Hawaii, Kenya. Let's turn this grid off. View grid. Okay. Obama lives like over here somewhere. Let's turn this on. I think I have my there we go. Okay. Obama was born here, Hawaii, Kenya. So very close to Tia. Okay. Interesting stuff. All right, let's pop out of here and check the chat real quick. Yeah, good job, Lance. Man, you guys all have had things to contribute from time to time. It's like the light comes on and we're all learning together, and it's pretty cool. Heaven is behind the darkness and the starry sky. Yes, that is correct. Okay. Casey is CERN on the Great Circle. No. And I haven't been able to map out the Great Circle because it's kind of hard to do. But I don't believe that CERN is on the Great Circle. Here, let's go back to the Great Circle. And let's see here. I'm going to be covering some stuff with Nicholson 1968 on the 13th, which is next week. Let's take a look here. Let's blow this up. So I've got that queued up here. Some amazing stuff that he found in the basketball court dimensions. All right, let's zoom this in. So here's a site where this guy is talking about a San Francisco connection. I don't quite follow this, but he's got the circle, the Great Circle pulled up here. But his map's like inverted, which is kind of weird. Let's Nazca. Ooh, wait a minute. Nazca. Wait a minute. Anchor Watt and Nazca. It does appear as though this may go through CERN. And And this is a rough map, so we're not getting kind of exact. But look at this. Okay, so this is Spain. So it's, I think CERN's a little north of this line, but it's close. Okay, it does go through like Italy and what is this? So Greece goes to Greece. All right, now zoom this out. You guys are going to notice all these 88s here too in this guy's analysis. Now I don't know this guy. I just pulled this website up. Look at this. Some of the math on here. What I should do is pop this down in the description for you guys to. They talk about Nazca and Priavi here being antipodal sites, which means they're opposite each other, but no one bothered to line the temple up and see where it pointed, to see that confirmed that it was pointing the other side of the planet. That's what we did on a previous video. That video is going viral. It's doing pretty good. And let's see, what does he say here? Okay, so here is the other inverted the other way, and I don't know why he inverted the maps different directions, but see, this map is inverted a different way than this map. See, and on this map it goes through Russia. It's nowhere near this area, so that's that. And you can see that the circle sweeps through northern Africa. This is Africa here. Okay, goes through Giza, the pyramids, but it doesn't do anything down here in the southern part of Africa. Let's go up here. Again, with this alignment, doesn't even come close to Africa. So pretty interesting stuff, you guys. All right, let's pop back over here. See what's going on in the chat with you guys. I think we'll pretty much wrap this up unless you guys have additional questions. Let's make sure we're still in here. Good. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, they got super colliders all over the place, you guys. It's crazy. I mean, there's colliders galore all over the world. And what's going on is I think they're all working in tandem. They don't spend billions of dollars to have a collider just go into disrepair. Okay. Well, you're going to notice even the people that live in these local areas around these colliders, okay, if they're closed down, then why is there still staff? Why are there still cars driving in and out? Okay. You got to ask yourself real questions. We got to start using critical thinking. Okay. We don't just accept what we're told in the media because we know that they lie. Okay. And so we got to start thinking for ourselves. Why are these super colliders all over the planet? There's one in Texas. There's one in Chicago on the 88th meridian. Okay. They're everywhere. There's one in Brookhaven, Long Island. Some are larger, some are smaller, some are very advanced. They're all most of them are underground. Okay. What I've been trying to do is try to find a connection between these circles, between these colliders. Like, are they connected somehow? Like, do they fall in ley lines? The only one that I found so far that's pretty profound is Firmament on the 88th meridian. It's on the 88th meridian, which is kind of crazy, but also it's shaped like a number 8. All right. So I thought that was pretty interesting as well. If there's anything else you guys want to talk about, we could probably do that in the last couple minutes. Otherwise, I'll wrap this up. Did anyone want to see The Simpsons UK today about portals? Homer going to real life. Yeah. Someone mentioned also that the media is again paralleling this channel. Like the day or a few days or a week after we talk about something, it miraculously shows up in the news. And this hasn't happened once. It's happened dozens of times over the past year, you guys. And somehow we're picking up on that. And, God does say, behold, I've shown my people what my plans are before they happen, or I've shown them things before they've happened. That doesn't make me a prophet. It's a demonstration of God's ability to have everything in control. And that we're on the right track as far as seeking truth. Is something going to happen on the 23rd? You guys, I don't know. I made a choice to kind of not focus on it, focus on the now, to focus on finding the truth, to focus on being right in your spirit, loving one another, bearing the hatchet, letting go of sin, loving your neighbor, letting go of materialism, getting out of the beast. That's what we've been focusing on this channel, so that if it does happen, we'll be ready spiritually. Because no matter what happens to our body, we have eternity if we're right with God. Okay, that doesn't mean go to church every Sunday until 9:23. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean I'm gonna open my Bible, 100 times a day, and if I open it 101 times, then God's gonna like that a little better than just 100 times. This isn't a numbers game. This isn't what's in your heart. Okay, it's about finding balance in your life. It's about loving God with all your heart and your mind and your soul, and really serving Him and not any other god before Him. He'll take care of the rest, you guys. And then all of a sudden, you come to this amazing revelation that you're going that everything becomes fall. It starts to fall into place, and that's where you find peace. Peace like a river. There's no fear anymore. There's pure love in your heart. Yeah, you're still going to fall down at times, but you're always going to find that resting place. Okay. You're going to start finding amazing enjoyment out of the natural things of heaven, like a sunrise or a sunset or the moon. You're going to be in awe of the Creator, and it's like He's sitting right next to you each and every day. Now, I have to admit, God definitely made me lie down beside cool pastures in the last 3 or 4 years of my life. Okay. Definitely. I am living a very humble life, at a fraction of the money I used to make, but I am 100% happy. Okay. The only time I'm unhappy is when I get into the spirit of the world and I'm around people that are just don't get it, or are so far gone that it doesn't seem that there's hope. And then I come right back here to try to spread hope and love so that people can snap out of it. Okay. I have a few people in my life I care very much about and I spend time with from time to time. And that's it, you guys. So that's where we're at with that. All right. Any more questions, you guys? Yeah, true that. My nephew's name is True. My brother named him True. So I always say that to him. True that. It's a very cute kid. It's like 12. Let's see here. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you guys for showing up. Impromptu is kind of last minute. Like I said, this will be posted for if you guys missed any of these parts. Bless you guys. I love each and every one of you, as always. And I want you guys to take care and be safe.